G'day folks, welcome to an OCC Queensland Daily Weather App today, the 23rd of March 2023. My name's Chris Nitzo. This update brought to you by our major sponsor, townsvillesheds.com. Check them out if you're in the market for a shed-safe, accredited shed. Alright, we've got a big trough system located here off the northeast Cape coastline. You can start to see that it's impacting the northeast Cape coastline this morning. Outside of that, we've got a few showers on the northeast tropical coast, particularly focused around the Daintree this morning. Those showers around southeast Queensland yesterday have progressed northwards and they're up around the Capricornia region this morning. But you can see there's certainly not as many of them around this morning as that change has weakened as it's pushed northwards. We've also got a little bit of convection going on in the Gulf of Carpentaria. You can see a nice little squally shower band pushing westwards there right on the Gulf coast. Over the last 23 hours, thanks to the Bureau of Meteorology here, we can see that there's been significant shower activity up around the Sunshine Coast region, pushing up towards the Wide Bay coastline, although much lighter up there. And now as it's pushing up to the Capricornia, you can see there's much less rainfall activity recorded in the last few hours from that. Further northwards, we've seen those isolated showers around the Mackay Whitsundays, which we're used to in a southeasterly flow. And then north of Townsville, we saw some pretty significant falls of rain here around northeast coastal Queensland. And just in the last few hours, we've seen that rainfall increase around the Daintree while decreasing around the northeast coastline. And while we are seeing the heaviest falls of rain on the northeast Cape, unfortunately, there's not many recording stations on the northeast Cape to actually tell us how much rain is actually falling. Looking at our surface winds across the state, we can see that trough. Look at that up there in the northern Coral Sea, and that extends an area of converging flow into the northeastern parts of Cape York Peninsula. Outside of that, solid southeasterlies can be observed right across central and north Queensland for at least the rest of today and most of tomorrow for most of this region. Outside of that, southeast Queensland, they're a little bit happier when it comes to winds across there for their boaties. Southeasters and easters at around 10 to 15 knots at this stage, but quite clearly that trough is going nowhere. You can see potential low pressure development along that trough line. Any low pressure development that does happen along that trough line is expected to remain relatively weak. So you can see there low trying to form on the trough, but there could be multiple little circulations that develop on that trough over the next 24 to 48 hours. That trough is going to continue to maintain that strong wind flow across central and north Queensland, particularly north Queensland, all the way into the weekend. Right, from a rainfall perspective over the next little while, we can see a little bit of convection popping up around northwest and southwest Queensland, so very isolated, relatively high-based convection, maybe a bit more lightning associated with the stuff down south. There's a little bit of isolated shower activity through the Central Highlands, Coalfields, Capricornia region, into the Herbert Burdekin, particularly just inland of the coastline. Could be a bit of very isolated shower activity. The area, of course, we're watching is the northeastern Cape. Let's be silly to take our attention off here because that's where all the big stuff's happening today. But outside of that, there's a little bit of little stuff going on around northeast Queensland, eastern Queensland, seaboard and the ranges, just west of the ranges, and also through southwest and northwest Queensland. But our big area to watch is the northeastern Cape over the next 24 hours. Rainfall between now and Friday morning. The time we talk Friday morning, we can see a few showers around the northeastern seaboard, and then as we go further northwards, we see much more significant rainfall activity on that northeast coast, the Torres Strait region, and obviously in the afternoons, we're going to see some nice convective currents through the northern and central parts of Cape York Peninsula, and quite a few showers and storms through that region as well. As I mentioned, some high-base convective activity here, some high-base convective activity here. Not too interested in that, but just be aware there might be a bit of lightning with some of that, and we do see that slight enhancement of shower activity around the Capricornia coast that we've got right now, and there could be a little bit of isolated shower activity through the central inland parts. And as I mentioned, just around the eastern seaboard, just inland of the eastern seaboard up here between Townsville and Bowen, or Townsville and Mackay, there could be an isolated shower or two in the afternoon. We're almost at the end of these updates, folks, so if you want to continue them into April, head over to join.ozcyclonechasers.com.au and we'll continue on until at least the end of April there on our subscription service. Plus, we look at these things in a lot more depth and detail and we look a lot further ahead. We've got another week to go, though, of the main part of the wet season, and we've got another week of these updates to go. Have a wonderful day. Talk to you tomorrow.